Am I the jerk for dropping out of my sister-in-law's wedding party because I didn't want to cover up my tattoos? Posted by you/dependent laugh 4765. I, 25F, was set to be a bridesmaid for my sister-in-law, 31F, for her upcoming wedding. My sister-in-law can be a control freak and has a tendency to set expectations that are sometimes pretty unrealistic or inconsiderate. As you would imagine, this applied to what she requested of her bridesmaids for her wedding. I know people have differing opinions when it comes to bridesmaids' dresses, but I'm someone who believes that the bride should have the final say since it is her day, especially if the bridesmaids' dresses are being paid for. However, regardless of who is paying, I also think brides should be mindful that if they want everyone to wear the exact same dress, it would be respectful to check if everyone is comfortable with certain styles, especially if there are people in the group who prefer to dress more modestly. In this specific situation, all the bridesmaids had to pay for their dresses, which I obviously didn't mind. Here's the thing, my sister-in-law asked her 3 closest friends first and had already decided on the dress for everyone to wear before she asked me. I had no expectation that she would ask me, so I had no input on what they picked. For context, I dressed pretty modestly, especially at church, and this is a church wedding. The dress they picked out was pushing my personal comfort level. It was a lilac chiffon, one-shoulder, floor-length dress with a slit that goes way above the knee, basically up to where most of my upper thigh would be exposed. I didn't want to make a big deal about it because they had already decided, and since it's what my sister-in-law really wanted, I kept my concerns to myself. I low-key wish we had all decided together, especially since 3 more people, including myself, were asked to be bridesmaids after the initial decision. Even though the dress wasn't within my modesty standards, I still decided to go along with it because I didn't want drama and just wanted to make her happy. My plan was to change after the festivities during the reception, which a couple of other bridesmaids had also planned to do, and my sister-in-law didn't mind. I thought things were going to be okay until my sister-in-law told me last week that she didn't want my tattoos to be noticeable and wanted them covered because it would be inappropriate for the church and the pictures. I have tattoos on my wrists, shoulders, and back. The tattoos on my shoulders and back are not small, they're very noticeable with the dress that was chosen. She told me she'd been concerned about them showing because of the dress. Keep in mind, she knows about my tattoos, and the dress was still chosen knowing they would show. I was annoyed, but since I had already paid for the dress, I asked if I could wear a shawl. She said no because she didn't want me to stand out from the rest of the group, especially since I'm not the maid of honor. She then suggested a foundation product to cover my tattoos, which costs around $40 to $50. I'm not going to spend that much on a product I'll never use again, and there's a chance it could get on the dress and make a mess. I told her I didn't think it was fair to expect this when she already knew I had tattoos and still chose a dress that would leave them visible. If she had a problem with my tattoos, why pick something without sleeves or ask me to be a bridesmaid in the first place? She said I was being unfair and that it was her day, and all she was asking was for me to accommodate her because it wouldn't look good for a Catholic wedding. When she said that, I got mad. It's always the people who start with the religious guilt who don't even follow their faith and are quick to judge. My sister-in-law has done and continues to do things that wouldn't be considered acceptable for a practicing Catholic, but I've never judged her because I have a past too and still struggle. For her to say it wouldn't be appropriate for a Catholic wedding felt hypocritical and made me feel like I was somehow going to make the ceremony unholy just because of my tattoos. I got my tattoos during a time when I had walked away from my faith, but I've come back to it and am pretty devout now, despite my struggles and shortcomings. For her to accuse me of being unaccommodating was beyond me because she already knows how I dress now, especially in a church setting. I even cover my hair at church. Still, I pushed aside my convictions and preferences to wear this dress for her because I wanted to keep the peace and avoid making a fuss. When I told her all of this, she started making comments about how I was being selfish for not using the foundation. Then she proceeded to say the dress looks trashy on me anyway because of my body. I'm on the curvy side and, unfortunately, have a large chest, so certain styles emphasize my chest and make me look bigger. That's just how the dress fits me. I'm not trying to brag, in fact, I personally don't like it. That's why I'm mindful of how I dress, but it's not like I can control how this particular dress looks on me. This is also why I prefer to dress more modestly. I ended the conversation by telling her that if this was going to continue to be an issue, I didn't want to trouble her further and thought it would be best if she chose someone else as a bridesmaid. I feel bad for stepping down, but her wedding is still 5 months away, and I think it's better if I'm no longer part of the bridal party. Am I in the wrong here? Edit. Just to clarify something, in response to some comments that wasn't mentioned in this post earlier, this sister-in-law is my husband's sister. None of my brothers are married. Trust me, I would have responded to her a little differently if that were the case, but since she is my husband's blood, it's his job to put her in check, which he already did. I can totally make another post to share what happened in that conversation between the two of them, but I'm not sure if I want to because it's a lot to unpack. Thank you for the comments, they've definitely made me feel better about my decision instead of feeling bad. Update 2 days later. I was debating whether or not to post this, but since a decent number of you asked and wanted to know, I decided I might as well spill the tea for all of you equally chismoso people like myself. Before I dive into my husband confronting her, I should provide some background on my overall experience with my relationship with my sister-in-law. In the beginning of my initial post, I talked about how she has a tendency to be controlling and to set very unrealistic expectations that influence the way she treats other people. Let me make one thing clear, she and I were very close at one point, or so I thought. I treated her like my own older sister, she has even seen me at some of my worst moments since I've been with her brother. But even then, I knew about her toxic behaviors. Part of me always prayed she would grow and do better with time. Almost 7 years later, and she proves me wrong every time. In the years I've known her, I've noticed how she prides herself on being the favorite child among her, my husband, and their brother. I didn't grow up with my half-siblings and was very much an only child, so I never really understood the dynamics between siblings or the competitiveness for parental approval and praise. To be honest, my husband and his brother don't really take any of it to heart or see anything as a competition, but their sister definitely does. At any given opportunity, she finds a way to make remarks about how she is the favorite and which of them is the least favored. At first, I saw it as joking and typical sibling banter, but as time went on, it started to irritate me. It especially doesn't help that I notice my in-laws don't even realize they play favorites and enable her behavior. For example, if my sister-in-law makes an out-of-pocket remark or comment at family gatherings, you know, the kind of comment that would earn you a smack if you said it to the wrong person, they never say anything to her. But heaven forbid my husband or his brother make a joke about something, then they get worked up. It's clear that because they don't treat all the siblings equally, she really does think she can act however she wants. I won't go into detail, but she has done things in the past that only prove that as long as things are going in her favor regarding her parents' approval, they are very religious. For context, she has no problem outing or screwing over her brothers. My husband has kept a lot of her dirty secrets, and in a moment of vulnerability, when he trusted her, she turned around and told my in-laws everything so she could look like the older sibling who cares enough to tell their parents what's going on with him, even though she has done far worse that would infuriate my in-laws. You might be asking, why not say anything to them as payback? My husband and I are the type of people who don't believe stooping to her level would achieve anything. Plus, they're not my secrets to tell, that's between her and God and whether or not she ever comes clean to her parents. Overall, that alone really changed my husband's view of his sister because it showed how selfish she is. Of course, he felt betrayed, even though this specific incident happened almost 6 years ago. He forgave her, but he never forgot. Since then, and over the time I've been with my husband, everything she says and does just doesn't go unnoticed. I know some of you may ask why we let it drag on, and, well, it's because if she is ever confronted for something she did wrong, she always finds ways to make herself the victim and get the whole family involved. It's like talking to a wall of nonsense and excuses. We've just learned to set boundaries, especially when it comes to family functions at this point. My sister-in-law sees through her nonsense but doesn't exhaust himself confronting her because my mother-in-law is overprotective of her, even though she knows her daughter can act very inappropriately. From what I see, my mother-in-law gets like that because my sister-in-law has run away and temporarily cut ties with them when things don't go her way. I get that she wouldn't want a strained relationship with her daughter, but still. So, imagine how angry my husband is. He's already been holding in his frustrations with his sister and is fed up with how passive his parents have become when it comes to her. Well, when he confronted her via FaceTime, he obviously came to my defense and told her she was being unreasonable and unfair. He cussed her out because she kept making all kinds of excuses, and he basically handed her tail back to her. He didn't just stop with the wedding situation. He called her out on everything, including something else she said about me to other family members that we weren't made aware of until a few hours before he called her. Turns out, she was going around talking about the whole dress and tattoo situation and about me dropping out of the bridal party to some family members, one of whom recorded what she said and sent it to my husband. Then, she went off on a tangent, saying that my husband could do so much better than me and that she feels so sorry for her baby brother because I'm lazy and won't help him financially, basically referring to the fact that my husband is supporting us while I'm in school full-time. Keep in mind, I'm in medical school. Working part-time is not even an option for most med students. My husband went off on her about that and asked why our marriage and the decisions we make bother her so much that she felt the need to bring it up. My husband is traditional and believes that as a man, he should provide, regardless of whether or not I choose to work. He decided he wanted to support us so I can follow my dream of pursuing medicine, and that bothers her enough to downplay me as a lazy freeloader, even though my career will eventually provide us with more stability. Regardless of how anyone looks at it, I don't know what her issues are, but targeting me just doesn't make any sense. After 30 minutes of yelling and listening to her fake crying and non-apology excuses, my husband told her that since her wedding day is a family event, he'll still participate out of obligation and I will attend as a guest, but she should consider this the last time we will ever be involved in anything concerning her. We're only planning to stay for the wedding mass and leave right after dinner, free food, I don't care. That's all. I know some of you are thinking, why still attend? But my husband is good friends with her fiancé and is a groomsman, so it wouldn't feel right to drop out on him just because my sister-in-law is crazy. However, my husband gave her an ultimatum: if she pulls similar crap again between now and the wedding, we won't go at all. Going forward after the wedding, or if she decides to open her mouth again, my husband has decided we won't contact or see them anymore. This will be easy since they'll be moving to a different state. I'm counting down the days, lol. If there's one thing I want to make clear at the end of this post, it's that I don't wish her any harm, nor do I hate her. I forgive her, however, for my mental and emotional health, I will not maintain a relationship with her of any kind going forward. I genuinely pray she grows, learns from all of this, and makes better choices if she has kids one day. I also hope she reflects on whether this toxicity was worth losing a relationship with her brother.